So a couple of weeks ago, I attempted a bucket list trip. It's been a dream of mine. It's one of my life goals that I want to actually complete the entire Appalachian Trail. But knowing that I can't take the amount of time off that it's going to take to do the whole trail at once, I have to section hike it. And so I've been actually researching the Appalachian Trail and specifically the beginning of it, the Georgia section, because that's where I started. I've been researching this for about 3 years. I mean, I have really sort of like poured in and educated myself with everything I could possibly know to be prepared for this in anticipation and in my excitement to kind of get this started. And so last week I attempted the first section of that, which was really exciting. I'd been waiting for this for so long, and so I had planned to do about 90 miles over about 10 days. Now, the most I've ever done before was about 30 miles. And so this was 60 miles more than I've ever done before. And so I was already a little bit nervous about that, but really excited about it as well. And as many people have since found out since I've been home, I didn't quite meet my goal. In fact, there were a lot of things that happen that happen when you're on a trail. And while I had a good time, there was also some challenging issues. So one night we had planned to stay in a shelter, and we weren't able to stay in that shelter for various reasons. And a storm hit, and so all of us got soaked. I mean, it was raining so hard it came through all of our tents, it got on all of our gear, and we were just soaking wet. The next morning we had to hike for like 3 miles in this torrential downpour to try to get to the next section, the next spot for us to camp. And so that wasn't any fun. And then a couple of the places we ended up having to camp, there was no water source there. And so, we weren't able to eat our freeze dried food. And so there were times where I was rationing my water and I was getting hungry, and all of that's kind of part of it, right? But really, what the kicker was is even though I had tested all of my gear before I went, my water filter failed. And so, you're drinking creek water, you have to filter that water. And I think probably what happened right before my filter stopped working is maybe it let a little bit of tainted water through. Now, I can go into detail about what that did to my stomach and how my insides became my outside, but you can imagine on your own. And so once I started feeling sick like that, I decided, you know what, I probably have to get off the trail. And so somewhere around mile 50, I hopped off the trail and took a shuttle back to my car and went back home. And I got to be honest with you, um, as I was driving home, there were a couple times I was actually to the point of tears. I just was upset because I'd spent so much time, in energy and anticipation, looking forward to this trip and finding the right time to be able to take that time off and actually finally getting to do it and then not being able to complete it. It was a blow to me. It really was a difficult thing. And I even said to myself a couple times while I was hiking, but especially when I was on my way home, like, what do I even do this for? Why do I even do this? I put myself in difficult situations, and I'm not able to complete it. And all of this planning, all of this time, I was feeling sorry for myself. I really was, because I've been looking forward to this so much. But you know what's funny? I thought about this since, because it only took a day or two. I have recovered. I'm not sick anymore, and after feeling better for just a couple of minutes, I already started planning my next trip. Right. So on one hand, I'm thinking, what am I doing this for? I'm feeling crushed. I'm feeling defeated. And then as soon as I start feeling a little bit better, I'm like, I got to get out there again. There is just something about the trail that calls me. It calls me to be out there and to endure some of the challenges. Because the truth is in spite of those challenges that I had a great time. The truth is when it comes down to it, I love this stuff. I love everything about hiking. I love the gear. I love the woods. I love the trail. I love the wildlife. I love all of that stuff. And to be able to experience those things, you also have to experience the challenges of that and the hardships of that. I bring all of this up because when it comes to like serving at church, there's a lot of interesting responses that people have, and I think by and large, people love uh, to volunteer and to be in ministry and to serve the people around us. But we all know that when it comes to serving, um, there are while there's a lot of good to it, there's some challenges that take place. And so I came across this piece of scripture in Second Timothy, and I thought it was pretty relevant to our conversation today. It says, "In the presence of God and of Christ Jesus, who will judge the living and the dead, and in the view of his appearing in his kingdom, I give you this charge: preach the word. Be prepared in season and out of season. Correct, rebuke, and encourage with great patience and careful instruction, for the time will come when people will not put up with sound doctrine. Instead, to suit their own desires, they will gather around them a great number of teachers to say what their itching ears want to hear. They will turn their ears away from the truth and turn aside to myths, but you keep your head in all situations. Endure hardship. Do the work of an evangelist. Discharge all the duties of your ministries, for I am already poured out like a drink offering, and the time for my departure is near." This is what Paul says. He says, "I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. And now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day. And not only to me, but also to all who have longed for his appearing." And then Paul says this is really important for us today. "Do your best to come to me quickly, for Demas, because he loved this world, has deserted me and has gone to Thessalonica. Crescens has gone to Galatia, and Titus to Dalmatia. Only Luke is with me." He says, "Get Mark and bring him with you because he is helpful to me in my ministry. I sent Tychicus to Ephesus. And when you come, bring the cloak that I left with Carpus at Troas and my scrolls, especially the parchments." And then he goes on to the reasoning behind what he's saying. He says, "Alexander the metalworker did me a great deal of harm. And while the Lord will repay him for what he has done, you too should be on your guard against him because he strongly opposed our message. At my first defense," Paul said, "no one came to my support, but everyone deserted me. May it not be held against them. But the Lord stood by my side and gave me strength, so that through me the message might be fully proclaimed and all the Gentiles might hear it. And I was delivered from the lion's mouth. The Lord will rescue me from every evil attack and will bring me safely to his heavenly kingdom. To him be the glory forever and ever." It's interesting because anybody who has been, um, volunteering in ministry, working with the church, things like that, you've experienced some similar things. It's hard when you're trying to love somebody and you're trying to point them to Jesus, you're trying to show them, the goodness of what all this is about, and they just kind of like go a different way, or they don't want to hear it, or they reject you. Those are hard. It's hard in your personal relationships. It's hard sometimes on Sunday morning to get up, to go to church, to step into your volunteer role, or to know that there's this big Fall Fest thing coming up, and I got this role in Fall Fest, and it's going to be all day, and I'm going to be tired, and while it's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to be doing a lot of work, and in fact, it's interesting um, because even as you talk to some pastors or people who are in ministry, sometimes there's this idea that church work is the hardest work there is. And we can get in this mindset that working for the kingdom, because it takes sacrifice and it takes effort and it takes work, and there's this emotional and personal identity that's attached to it that creates this challenge. And sometimes we feel like what we do is harder than what anybody else on the planet does. Now, I was thinking about Paul in his letter, because in his letter, he's explaining some of his hardships. So and so left me. I felt deserted. Alexander harmed me. The guy I was trying to teach about Jesus was listening to the world, and he left. And he's going on and on and on and on and on about this. But if you know about Paul's pattern, you know that Paul would often go and he would preach the gospel, and then he would be rejected by the Jews of the town or by other or Gentiles of the town, and they often would respond to him violently. And there's more than one story where they took him out and sort of like left him for dead, and he was stoned and he was beaten and then he just kept getting up and going back, kept getting up and going back, kept getting up and going back. And I thought about that. I wonder why. Actually, I know why. Because he loves this stuff. It's exactly the same thing with me in the trail, right? I keep going back even when I have difficult situations because I love this stuff. Paul loves teaching people about Jesus. He loves loving people, even though it's hard, even though it takes effort, even though that there can be rejection and sacrifice involved with it. He loves this stuff. So I don't want to pretend like church work isn't hard or that it's easy all the time. It absolutely is. But if we just stop for a second and think about what we get to do. We get to shine a light in a dark world. That's what God calls us to do. He calls us to be his light in this dark world. We get to tell people about grace and love and hope. Where else are people getting this message? Not very many places, I would submit. We get to do that. We get to be a part of Christ's hands and feet to the world. It's amazing. And not only that, we're surrounded by people who are for us doing that. You're surrounded by people who are for you, for your ministry, for what you want to accomplish in God's kingdom. We're for you. So I've often pondered in this verse, what is the lion's mouth? Right? Paul says that he was delivered from the lion's mouth. And he kind of connects that to some of the hardships and the challenges that he's experiencing, that the rejection, the desertion, the harm that's done to him, that's the lion's mouth. And he says over and over and time again, the Lord delivered me from the lion's mouth. And I wonder what our lion's mouth is. Because I'm going to tell you something about me. And this is the truth. Sometimes I'm my own lion's mouth. Sometimes I look around and I tell myself stories about what is happening around me. And I create in my mind this hardship that no one's got it harder than me and no one has to deal with I have to deal with and on and on and on and on and on. And the truth is that's a narrative that's just not true. You know what is true? People have rejected me because of my ministry. You know what is true? People have attacked me, maybe not physically, but have attacked me because of my ministry, because of what I've been called to do for the kingdom. People have deserted me. I can hear and feel when Paul says these things because these things happen. But then when I look at what I get to do, that is so much greater and so much bigger and so much more amazing than any of these hardships that I have to endure. And so, even in the face of that, I keep going. I reject the idea that I have it anything but awesome to be able to be a part of the kingdom and to share God's love and hope with people because I love this stuff. I love this stuff. And I hope you do too.